My name is Rafael, you watch Rock Our Garage, and today I'm going to show you 28 bands that were Black Sabbath's opening act from the 70s until the band and during the last decade. But first, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave your comment. Well, let's start. Black Sabbath was formed in 1970 in Birmingham, England by Ozzy Osbourne, Bill Ward, Geezer Butler, and Tony Iommi. And when they were able, after a few albums, when they were able to become the headlining act, they invited many incredible bands to be their opening act, and many groups which would later become huge bands. And let's start. We go back to 1971, just 1 month before Black Sabbath released their third album, Master of Reality. They played a show where, yes, the fantastic progressive rock band and Humble Pie were the opening acts. Humble Pie was the band with Steve Marriott on vocals and guitar, which also had Peter Frampton at the time. And this show was in New York City. So these are the first two bands. And the interesting thing is that in an interview with Metal Hammer in 2015, Ozzy said that Humble Pie was one of the best opening acts Black Sabbath ever had. He was a big fan of Steve Marriott, who previously was the vocalist and guitarist of the Small Faces. The next ones, also in 1971, at the same date, same bill, Alice Cooper and Black Oak, Arkansas opened for Black Sabbath in 1971. In an interview with Metal Hammer, Ozzy also said on that same interview that, in his opinion, Black Oak, Arkansas was also one of the greatest bands that opened for Black Sabbath. You could expect that. Well, it's quite surprising. The next two ones, 1972, the G. Gales Band and Blue Oyster Cult. In 1972. It was July 1972, and Black Sabbath already was one of the biggest bands in the world. They already had released their groundbreaking self-titled album in 1970. Also in 1970, they already had released Paranoid, and the third one, Master of Reality, in 1971. And during that year, they toured in the United States with acts like the G. Gales Band and Blue Oyster Cult, which were not that famous at the time. And the interesting thing is that Sabbath toured again with Blue Oyster Cult 8 years later, in 1980. And that tour was called the Black and Blue Tour, Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult. At the time, Black Sabbath had that different lineup with Ronnie James Dio on vocals. The next one that we're going to mention is Gentle Giant, one of the most influential progressive rock groups of all time. It tends to get overlooked, in my opinion. It was a concert in 1972, which also had Black Oak, Arkansas. And it was a show that happened at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. The next ones, in 1975, many incredible bands opened for Black Sabbath. Probably the most famous one was Kiss, and also they had as the opening act Status Quo and Slade. At the time, Sabbath was promoting their 6th studio album, Sabotage, which had famous songs like Hole in the Sky, Symptom of the Universe, and these three bands opened for them. Also in 1975, other two incredible acts which opened for Black Sabbath. Lynyrd Skynyrd, believe it or not, Lynyrd Skynyrd opened for Black Sabbath, and on the same day, opening for Sabbath and Lynyrd Skynyrd was Peter Frampton. That's right, as you can see here, in the same bill, Lynyrd Skynyrd and Peter Frampton opened for Sabbath. In 1976, Ted Nugent opened for Black Sabbath. At the time, Black Sabbath was promoting their 1976 album, Technical Ecstasy, which is probably one of the most underrated ones from their discography. This show happened on December 8th at the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, with Ted Nugent as the opening act. In 1977, AC/DC opened for Black Sabbath. AC/DC with Bon Scott on vocals, man. What a bill! Can you believe that? You go to see Black Sabbath and the opening act is AC/DC with Bon Scott. And at the time, AC/DC was also promoting Technical Ecstasy. But that tour didn't last that long with Sabbath, with AC/DC as the opening act, because there was a discussion between Geezer Butler one night and Malcolm Young. They had a discussion. Some people say one showed a knife to the other one, and there was a discussion between the two, and AC/DC ended up being kicked out of that tour. The next one that we're gonna talk about was in 1978, another legendary band, Van Halen, opened it for Black Sabbath. At the time, Black Sabbath was promoting Never Say Die, the final album with Ozzy on vocals during his first era with the band, right before he was fired. And it was the start of an incredible friendship between Tony Iommi and Eddie Van Halen. It was the first time Tony had the chance to see Eddie Van Halen and Van Halen playing live, and he was impressed. Obviously, they became great friends, and Eddie Van Halen was a big fan of Black Sabbath. For example, Van Halen was almost named in the early days of the band Rat Salad, which was the instrumental track of Paranoid, the album. And they used to cover, when they were playing the bar circuits before they had a record deal, they used to play a lot of Black Sabbath songs, some of them with Eddie Van Halen on vocals. It wasn't even Dave Lee Roth singing. And he ended up co-writing a song with Black Sabbath in 1994 on their album Cross Purposes, which had only two original members, Iommi and Geezer Butler, and it was a song called Evil Eye. So if you go there and you look to who are the co-writers, Eddie Van Halen is one of them. The next one, also in 1978, the Ramones opened it for Black Sabbath. Can you believe that? At the time, Black Sabbath was also promoting Never Say Die, and Ramones were promoting, they had already released their 4 first albums, and they were at the time promoting Road to Ruin in 1978. The next one is, and this is quite interesting because this was in 1983 when the band, when Black Sabbath had Ian Gillan on vocals, the Deep Purple vocalist, and they had recorded the album Born Again, which tends to get overlooked, and I think it's a very good album, but the members of the band never liked the final mixing of the album. They think it's not the way they recorded, and etc. Iommi wants to remix that record one day. And at the time they were promoting Born Again, and some of the artists who opened it for them were Nazareth, Quiet Riot, and Diamond Head. All great bills, can you believe that? Just amazing bands. And an interesting fact, because Born Again was the final Black Sabbath album, studio album with Bill Ward, the original drummer. However, when the touring started, Bill decided to go to rehab, and so the band hired someone who was a big friend of Iommi, Bev Bevan, who was the Electric Light Orchestra drummer. So he was the one who toured with Tony, Geezer, and Ian Gillan, and they used to even play Smoke on the Water. If you can look in YouTube, and you're gonna see this Black Sabbath lineup playing Smoke on Water on Black Sabbath shows, during Black Sabbath shows. 3 years later, in 1986, Black Sabbath's lineup was totally different again. It had Glenn Hughes on vocals, and Eric Singer on drums, who would then, in the 90s, would become Kiss drummer. And in 1986, they had Anthrax, the legendary thrash metal band, and Wasp, the band led by Blackie Lawless, another incredible hard rock group at the time. Black Sabbath lineup at the time had Glenn Hughes on vocals, the former Trapeze and Deep Purple bassist and vocalist. He wasn't playing the bass during this era, live at least. Eric Singer on drums, Dave the Beast Spitz, and Geoff Nichols on keyboards, who ended up being Black Sabbath's fifth member, let's say, from the, I think he joined the band during the Dio era, and he stayed in the band until the 90s. In 1995, what an amazing bill. Motorhead opened it for Black Sabbath. And this happened when Black Sabbath had released, in the year Black Sabbath released Forbidden, the final album with Tony Iommi on vocals. And one of their opening acts during their tour was Motorhead, which was the band led by the late legendary bassist and singer Lemmy Kilmister. And at the time, Black Sabbath's lineup was Tony Iommi guitar, Tony Martin vocals, Neil Murray bass, Geoff Nichols on keyboards, and Cozy Powell on drums. And in 1999, the original lineup reunited. Bill Ward, Geezer Butler, Tony Iommi, and Ozzy Osbourne finally, in 1998 actually, until 1999. After more than 20 years, the band had released their final studio album with Ozzy at the time. And during that tour, one of the famous opening acts they had was Pantera, with the classic lineup, classic Pantera lineup. And from 2012 until 2017, which was when the final Black Sabbath reunion happened, and it was 3/4 of a reunion because Bill Ward wasn't part of their final album 13 or the tour. So it was only Geezer, Iommi, and Ozzy. On the album 13, it was the Rage Against the Machine drummer Brad Wilk who played the drums. And during the tour, it was Ozzy's drummer, Tommy Clufitos, who played the drums. And during that tour, from 2017 to 2012 to 2017, many great bands opened it for them. Some of them were Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Rival Sons, and Megadeth. And the only time I had the chance to watch Black Sabbath, I had the chance to watch Black Sabbath twice, Ozzy twice, solo, and Black Sabbath only this time, which was when Megadeth opened for them. I mean, what an amazing bill. It was the first time I saw Megadeth playing, and the first time I saw Black Sabbath playing. It was just, the most perfect night of my life until then, because it was just amazing. And that's it. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave your comment. And if you want to read more, go to the description and visit the article I wrote about it, okay? Thank you for watching, and I see you later.